Hello and welcome to Experience Recovery Conversations. Experience Recovery Conversations have really started to help people understand what other organisations are doing, what's their approach to lockdown been, and sharing a bit of learning. And today I'm joined by Dan. And Dan, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself. So just tell us who you are, what you do and where you do it, please.
Yeah, no, absolutely. My name's Dan Fewings. I'm the Operation Director for Mosaic Spa and Health Clubs. Been based in that role for 3 years, having worked for the company now for 29 years in lots of capacity. So again, it's a company that I know really well and thoroughly enjoy my time working with them. As the Operations Director, the role, I suppose, is kind of split into 2 or 3 key areas. First one being health and safety, so looking at all of the planning, looking at our corporate approach, looking at the strategic approach for the organisation, making sure we're compliant, and also then looking at our monitoring and our auditing processes. And then obviously following that process all the way down to the clubs and working with the clubs, working with the people responsible for the clubs to ensure that all of that's delivered. On a more day-to-day operational side of things, I'm still directly involved with some sites acting, I suppose you would say, in the regional manager's position. I still like that ability to have them, to be involved at the club level. I don't want to be sitting behind the desk in Norwich all day of the week. So it's nice to get out and still go and visit the sites. So I've got some sites that I directly oversee, but also work very closely with the rest of the senior team and regional managers in the remaining sites. Then I suppose the other 2 areas are client management. We're predominantly a contract management company, so managing and liaising with our clients, our customers in that respect is just as important as looking after the customers that come through the front door to use the gyms or the spas. And then obviously as part of the executive team within Mosaic, it's just looking at the strategic planning for the company each year.
Okay. Now, I very much doubt there's anybody out there that haven't heard of Mosaic, but just tell us, give us a bit of a clue as to the length of tenure that you've been doing this, but more importantly, what types of operations do you deliver and support?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, Mosaic Spa and Health Clubs, I've been working for them for 29 years now. Started back in 1992 down in our local club where I live in Ufford Park in Woodbridge. As far as an organisation, we're predominantly a contract management company. We operate health clubs within hotels, corporate facilities and things like that, but also very much we've got sites where we lease and directly operate ourselves, and also sites that we co-own and own as well. So it's quite a broad spectrum of what we do. We're a contract management operator, as I say, so we're happy to offer any services when it comes to management directly or assisting with operation of health clubs or day spas. And our portfolio is very kind of equally split between health clubs and day spas and spas as well.
Yeah, fantastic. I particularly like the Shrewsbury Club. I've got a relative that lives near there, so we have lunch at the Shrewsbury Club, and not yet taken part, but the development there was exceptional. The redevelopment is just lovely. It's a great job. So lockdown hit, whatever it was, March 19th, 24th, I can never remember. What happened? What did you do? What was your reaction?
Well, I think obviously the initial reaction is probably one that's not really broadcastable. But outside that, I think the first thing corporately that we wanted to do is we needed to sit down and we needed to understand what were the key things that made sure that when lockdown we came out of lockdown, when ultimately we came out of the pandemic, we were still here as a business. That was the key thing. We needed to survive that. So we put the heads together. We looked at what we needed to do. There was 5 key areas that came out really of that kind of brainstorming sessions. And first one was very much about preserving the cash, because ultimately if we don't have that, we don't have the business. And so therefore any of the other factors and any of the other things that we want to do just become completely irrelevant. So we obviously needed to get comfortable with preserving the cash. We also wanted to look after the staff. It was completely unexpected. So, it moved really quickly from something that wasn't really going to be affecting the UK, and to a certain extent, maybe people burying their heads in the sand of it. So 3-4 weeks later, we were in a lockdown, and everyone was just really unsure of what was going to happen. And that was the same with our staff. A lot of our staff are of an age maybe where they don't take as much interest in the news, if we're honest. So therefore, actually, trying to help them through the process was going to be critical. So we wanted to keep engaged with the staff. We wanted to keep them motivated because we knew we were going to come out of it at some point, and we wanted the staff to be with us at the end of that. We also needed to make sure that we kept in contact with our members. So how we communicated with the members was critical, because again, no good having the cash in the bank, having the staff in the clubs if no members are coming back through the front door. So we wanted to make sure that we kept in contact with those, and we wanted to try and offer as much as we could to them during the lockdown process. But then also kind of from a more mundane type of thing, we needed to look at the facilities. We needed to make sure that they were closed down properly, safely, and we needed to make sure that during that lockdown that things were maintained and we were still complying with any regulations that we needed to do. But and then equally importantly, that we didn't know at that stage how much notice we were going to get to reopen. So we wanted to make sure that whatever we were doing during that lockdown meant that we were able to open as quickly and as safely as possible as soon as we got that green light. And almost from day one of lockdown, whilst working along those things, we were trying to get ready for the reopening. We wanted to be ready for that. We didn't know whether it was going to be a few weeks, a few months, or what, but we just knew we needed to be ready for when we got that ability to reopen.
It's really interesting, that stage approach and looking at your key stakeholders effectively. I remember looking up how to spell the word furlough, let alone understand.
Yeah.
And without furlough, I'll hold my hands up, my business wouldn't be here now. So it's been an immense tool to keep us ready to respond as you describe. When are we going to reopen, how are we going to reopen, etc. The bit I'm really interested in is member communications, because you've got your members are, it's not a cheap membership, is it, to be a member of the clubs that you operate? They're high-end clubs, they're good quality clubs. So what sort of things did you do to sort of keep that engagement and keep those people with you through the lockdown?
Absolutely, you're right. I mean, the engagement with the members was critical. People do pay, with the facilities we operate aren't what you would call of a budget spectrum. Absolutely. So no, we wanted to make sure that although people weren't being charged, we still wanted them to make sure that they felt they were getting perceived value for being a member for us. And so what we wanted to do is we wanted to try and engage with them as much as we could. Obviously, first thing is looking at what avenues have you got available to you. Clearly, the obvious one is online. You've got social media. So the initial thought was simply just to put some classes online. So we did some classes, we posted them on social media. We wanted to open them up to not just members, but to open them up to the public as well. We needed to have one thought in process about the reopening, and could this be an opportunity to actually engage with people that weren't members as well, and actually use it as an advantage to try and drive membership sales when we were able to reopen. So initially we put all of the classes that we put out, we put for general public, not just for members, but obviously we directed members to them through the social media outlets and through our Facebook pages, Twitter accounts and things like that. And actually that proved really successful. In the first lockdown, during the first phase of those classes, we had just short of 250,000 minutes being viewed within that first lockdown, which to go from nothing to 242,000 plus minutes of people viewing them was fantastic. And so we were really pleased with that. So as we've started to see that was building, we could see that it was something we wanted to seize on the momentum with. And so along with some software that we used called StreamYard, this enabled us to take that offering to the next level. So rather than just having sessions that were recorded and people could go and watch, we were now having sessions that people could interact with. So the member or the member of the public participating, they could actually post a comment onto the pages as well. We wanted to give it as much of a feel as we could, as if they were back in their club and they were exercising with their friends and interact with the instructor as well. And that proved really successful. And we've also managed to use that same device to come away from just classes, but a lot of our clubs do coffee mornings and quizzes in the monthly quizzes within the club. So we continue with those. You do a virtual coffee morning, you do it through StreamYard. Everyone that attends can interact with everybody else. All of the comments come up on the screen, and it proves to be again quite a fun way of members keeping in contact with each other, as well as adding benefit to being a member of that particular club.
Mm. And StreamYard, have you looked at some of the other stuff? Because obviously, you know, one of the big pieces of work that you guys do is your Black Friday sale, the vouchers, you know, the presents, the gifts for people, relaxation, all that type of stuff. Have you been able to do anything around the sort of the treatment sides on StreamYard?
We've just done a Facebook Live event for the spas. We've done that in conjunction with Temple Spa, and that was really well received. They had at one point 150 people live watching, which was fantastic. And so, yeah, I mean, whilst the initial focus has been on the health club side of things, it is something now, as we've got more confident in the program and the process of it, that we are developing and trying to move across to the spas. And as I say, the Facebook Live sessions that we did with Temple Spa, I think that was last week, they went really well. So yeah, it's certainly something that we want to keep developing and keep trying to push the boundaries and see where we can go from there. And with that in mind, during the second lockdown, we changed software packages again, and this time over to a software live stream that enables us now to actually produce the classes live, have them recorded, and have people interacting on them. And what we've done with those is they're going to be directed to a member-only part of the websites. So if you're a member, you've got that added bonus and the added value for money of getting live classes, whether it's lockdown or not. It's something that we want to continue with even outside of lockdown. People aren't always able to get into classes, you know, there's limited space, people have holidays, you know, people have got other things that come in and prevent them from getting into the club, whereas this way it will actually enable them to still participate and be part of the club, even when we're back open and up and running back to some kind of normality.
Yeah, and that's the really interesting piece for me. I think COVID has given us a real opportunity to grab digital development with both hands and produce something that will have a life of its own going forward. And that's the bit, I suppose, the point of these conversations is what are those nuggets? What are those things that you're going to take away from almost the last 12 months to make sure that we come out of this stronger and better than when we went into lockdown and COVID?
Absolutely, and I think alongside the social media and the online presence for the members and for the public, it's how we engage with the team. I don't think you can ever underestimate the value of having teams that are, you know, not just managers, but all members of the teams at all levels that are engaged in with the company and the processes. And I think first is definitely lockdown one. That was one of the overriding comments that we received back from the teams, was how they felt supported and how they felt part of the company, even when they weren't coming to work, because that was kind of our second objective once we knew we were going to be okay with cash, was to make sure that we felt that the club and the staff were feeling looked after. And we had a lot of programs that we put together during that period. We did a lockdown Olympics in the first phase through our communication app, where we'd have various challenges. Every week there'd be a challenge, whether it was a brain teaser, whether it was a virtual bake-off. There'd be something that everyone, not just club managers, would interact with. And I think that communication and that engagement with the team is so vitally important, and that's what's going to help us recover when all of this is over, because ultimately, you know, we'd like to think there is going to be a point where it ends, and therefore the critical thing is how we actually take the businesses to get back to at least the levels they were pre-COVID, but actually above and beyond that. You know, we still wanted to grow. We wanted to grow before COVID, so we certainly want to grow after COVID, and having that team engaged and feeling that they're valued and part of the company, I think is going to be critically important in that.
Yeah, and I think actually, Dan, that's a really good place to end the conversation, because we've had our time, but just to remind people, actually, we can't do any of this without our people. And if they are engaged, if they are aligned, if they have been supported, then we're on the front foot going forward, which is just brilliant. So Dan, thank you so much for your time today. Really good to have this conversation, and thank you for sharing all of your insights. And we'll catch up soon, I'm sure. Take care.
Well, my pleasure. Thank you.